It's the end of an era. The Hotel Transylvania series has come to an end with the most recent release, Transformania. So let's look at the series and give you a reason to rewatch the series before you see its end. The Hotel Transylvania series really owes it all to Adam Sandler. Making a cartoon about Dracula being an overbearing father could have been an absolute disaster. If the actor had made him too monstrous, he would have been terrifying for kids. If the actor had made him too silly, he would have been basically Count Chocula. Sandler perfectly threaded that line, making Dracula fun yet serious enough that you felt for his struggle with raising his only daughter. According to interviews with Sandler, he loved providing the voice for the franchise. That's why there was such a surprise when everyone watched the latest entry and heard a very different Dracula. This time around, Brian Hull donned the fangs of the franchise's main monster. He's a well-known impressionist who had some experience with the role. He actually voiced Dracula in the short film Monster Pets, a Hotel Transylvania short film. While we don't have any word on why Sandler wasn't a part of this film, speculation rests on his overall deal with Netflix possibly causing a problem for an Amazon Prime movie. Though honestly, I bet they didn't want to pay that Sandler-sized paycheck. When Sandler came onto the Hotel Transylvania franchise, he brought most of his legendary big-screen entourage with him. David Spade, Steve Buscemi, and most notably Kevin James all joined their buddy in Transylvania. His gang has appeared with Sandler in movies like Grown Ups, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, Pixels, and about 75 other movies since his film career took off in the 90s.
Are you sure about that?
So this was just one more big franchise for the team that brought in big money. Only one of the core group did not return for the last outing. That would be Kevin James, who portrayed Frankenstein throughout the franchise. This time around, the relatively unknown Brad Abrell voiced him. I'm not sure if the budget for the final film dropped or if there was some kind of falling out, but there's clearly some story behind the scenes. Now that I think about it, the weirder thing is that Rob Schneider wasn't cast as Frank in the first place.
We can't say nothing about this?
Finding Dracula the first time around proved to be extremely difficult. The first film had a challenging pre-production cycle that saw several creative teams rising and falling away. Part of that challenge was casting the leading man. They considered a huge pop of famous comedy actors for the role. Those included the likes of Mike Myers, Johnny Depp, Jack Black, Channing Tatum, Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson, Ewan McGregor, Norm Macdonald, Dana Carvey, Ben Stiller, Joe Jonas, Patrick Warburton, Michael C. Hall, Ryan Gosling, and Steve Carrell. Apparently, Carrell came closest to nabbing the role, more than once actually. When it came time to cast Dracula yet again after Sandler left, one name from the original list popped up yet again. The star of Despicable Me and The Office seemed like the perfect choice to replace Sandler in the role, though I imagine his salary made him seem a little less perfect. Cha-ching! Even when Adam Sandler was at his biggest in the 90s, he still wasn't the biggest comedy actor in Hollywood. That would be the one and only Jim Carrey, who was certified box office gold in the 90s. Dumb and Dumber, Liar Liar, and Ace Ventura were all huge hits for Carrey. So it's strange that he never had his own Shrek, Despicable Me, or Toy Story animated franchise to rake him in a few more truckloads of cash. Funnily enough, Carrey was on the shortlist for Dracula and nearly made it into the last film, though in a much different role. When it came time to recast Kevin James, Carrey was the first choice for the role of Frankenstein. This is kind of bizarre considering how different these two actors are. Well, it's probably just a matter of time before Carrey has a franchise of his own that Kevin James can replace him in. If there was one man who defined cartoons of the 1990s, it was Genndy Tartakovsky. This creator is the genius behind many of Cartoon Network's biggest hits. These include a ton of legendary titles like Dexter's Labratory, Powerpuff Girls, and Samurai Jack. He was also handpicked by George Lucas to helm the Clone Wars TV show, the original one before Dave Filoni made his own series. Tartakovsky made a huge step in his career when he helmed the first Hotel Transylvania film. This was his first big feature like this, and was CGI animation no less. It proved to be one of his biggest hits, cementing him as one of the all-time greats yet again. And then he came back for both sequels, Hotel Transylvania 2 and Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation. Sadly, when it was time for Transformania, Tartakovsky was no longer in the director's chair. This time around, Derek Dryman and Jennifer Kluska shared the director duties. They returned from working on Monster Pets, a Hotel Transylvania short film. Tartakovsky did apparently consult on the story, so it wasn't a complete abandonment of his franchise. Honestly, I hope he's still hard at work on the next season of Primal. It's some of his best work, though not as family-friendly. Selena Gomez didn't used to be a surefire hit as an actress. Sure, she may have gotten her start on the likes of Wizards of Waverly Place, but she's mostly just known for her singing career, so it shouldn't surprise anyone that she was not the first choice to play Mavis when they were casting in the first Hotel Transylvania. Funnily enough, Miley Cyrus was their first choice. Not only that, but they actually casted Cyrus in the role. She was all set to begin work on the film and everything. That is until she posted something online that pretty well dashed her family-friendly persona once and for all. So just like that, Hannah Montana was cut out and it was time for someone else to come in. Luckily, they struck gold with Gomez. She is perfect as Mavis and has appeared in all 3 Hotel Transylvania films. Unlike Adam Sandler and Kevin James, she came back for Transformania as well. Nowadays, Selena Gomez is known as the star of one of 2021's biggest Hulu hits, Only Murders in the Building. Meanwhile, Miley Cyrus's acting career nowadays is limited to the single worst episode of Black Mirror. So yeah, I'd say this worked out pretty well for them. Dracula was originally going to have a very different look for Hotel Transylvania. In fact, almost all of the characters were. Originally, Dracula was going to have a much more imposing look. They wanted him to be a lot more reminiscent of Bela Lugosi's legendary creepy performance as Dracula, which spanned a number of films. Everything changed when Adam Sandler showed up. His lovable portrayal of the famous vampire changed everything. Suddenly, Dracula was less imposing and more of a softie. It looks like they designed his face to resemble Sandler's famous egg-shaped head that he's always making fun of in his other movies. They did keep one aspect of the original idea. Dracula still has the same sense of style and haircut as Bela Lugosi's take on the character. I mean, it's not like they were gonna dress him like the one from Dracula Untold. No one wants to see that. There's no denying that Transformania has a different vibe than the other 3 movies. It's missing several key members of the cast, the famous creator, and landed on Amazon Prime for the first time. Part of the reason why this film feels a little different is because it comes from entirely new writers. While Tartakovsky had a hand in the initial story, he wasn't the main writer. This time the screenplay was written by relatively unknown writers like Amos Vernon and Nunzio Randazzo. This is actually the biggest project either have had so far. Who knows? Maybe it'll be their big break. While Dracula himself is a fictional vampire who terrorizes Great Britain in the original novel, he's actually loosely based on a real person. That would be the Romanian historical figure Vlad the Third, otherwise known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula. While Hotel Transylvania doesn't exactly acknowledge the brutal history behind this person's life, it does make a reference to it. The titular hotel is stated to be located just outside a very specific city in Romania. This is actually the real-life hometown of the real Dracula. I do have to say, while I like the movie's Dracula a lot more, I do say there's one Vlad has him beat. His facial hair game was fantastic. I don't think Hotel Transylvania's Dracula could ever pull that mustache off. Frankenstein is one of the best characters in the series. He throws a lot of the tropes we usually see with Frankenstein's monster out the door. He isn't nearly as monstrous as he is in the original novel, nor is he as dumb as he's often portrayed in other movies, books, and TV shows. The biggest change has nothing to do with his personality though, it's his skin. Frankenstein's monster is usually always shown with green skin. This is likely due to the marketing behind the Universal take on Frankenstein, starring Boris Karloff. Funnily enough, it's this exact reference that's behind the change as well. You see, that first Frankenstein movie was shot in black and white. While it was assumed that the monster was green, Karloff actually had light blue makeup on, so his skin color in the Hotel Transylvania is actually a deep cut reference to the original movie. The more you know. Throughout the series, Johnny's always been the odd man out. Specifically because he's the only human, and that's pretty odd at this particular hotel. So when it comes for him to finally become a monster in the latest movie, the possibilities were endless. Would he become a werewolf, a Frankenstein-style monster like he pretended to be in the first movie? A vampire like his family? I mean, just think of the Twilight-style jokes they can make out of Mavis teaching him to be a vampire for the first time.
This is how we're represented. Unbelievable.
That would have been enough for a movie just by itself. So why was he a dragon? That's not exactly on theme, is it? Well, actually, it's more on theme than you'd think. You see, a dragon actually references Dracula's history. Dracul in Romanian actually means dragon. So when they find their roles reversed and Dracula becomes a man, it is extra ironic to see Johnny become his literal namesake right before his eyes. Johnny is arguably the source of pretty much all the problems in the series. Dracula was pretty happy with his daughter before this human showed up and made a mess out of everything. I mean, they all seem happier in the end, but it took a while to get there. You know what all the other monsters in the series are based on, but what is Dracula's personal monster based on? Well, Johnny appears to have 2 different inspirations. For starters, he seems to be a silly reference to Jonathan Harker,
Yes, sir.
the lawyer that visits Dracula only for his time in Count's home to turn into a nightmare. This time the script is flipped and Dracula is the one who suffers because of this other Jonathan. The other point of reference is Andy Samberg himself. He said that a good deal of the character's cheerful in the face of danger attitude is based on what he was like when he was younger. Apparently in school, he would walk through all the drama of teenage life with a smile, blissfully unaware of all the drama around him. sounds familiar for sure. To be honest, there are practically no Dracula films that stay true to the source material. They usually keep a few of the characters, but wildly change other details to fit the film's vision. Sometimes he's a romantic lead, sometimes he's a superhero, sometimes he's just really silly. Then there's Hotel Transylvania, which sort of pretends to be a sequel to the original novel. No, really. If you go back to the first movie, it's revealed that Dracula built the hotel in 1895. This is actually right around the time the original story would have taken place. The book came out in 1897 and is presented as a story that happened years prior to the book's release. Only in the Hotel Transylvania version, it ends with Dracula getting married only to lose his wife to an angry mob. They should just be happy he decided to deal with his pain by basically opening an embassy suites for monsters. The Dracula from Castlevania went in a whole different direction to what happened to him. Yikes. Animating the Invisible Man is quite the difficult task. I mean, unlike every other monster staying in the hotel, there's no facial features on Griffin to help the jokes land. This puts quite a lot of pressure on David Spade to bring it all with a pair of glasses to make his character work. These glasses weren't picked by accident, though. They're apparently the same glasses one of the designers for the film series wears. Funnily enough, a great deal of the fandom had a big problem once the Invisible Man became visible. Apparently, many fans of the Hotel Transylvania had a big crush on Griffin. They even wrote fan fiction depicting what he looked like when visible. So when it was revealed that Griffin wasn't so attractive in the light of day, they were furious. They took to the internet to make their displeasure known in plenty of videos and rants across message boards. Some has even redesigned him to look better than he does in the movie. I guess the heart wants what the heart wants, huh? The animated movie business is a huge moneymaker. It seems like every year it features its own Despicable Me or Sing that pulls in millions upon millions upon millions of dollars and begs for a series of sequels to do the same for years to come. Of the highest-grossing film franchises of all time, Disney is the king. Franchises like Toy Story and Frozen are the #1 hits. Seeing as the new Buzz Lightyear movie's on the way, and likely another Frozen as well, that will probably stay the same forever. Behind them stands Illumination's Despicable Me franchise, which has been a giant moneymaker. Then you've got an army of DreamWorks hits such as Kung Fu Panda, Shrek, and How to Train Your Dragon. The Lego Movie franchise, including Lego Batman, are also sitting pretty in the top 10. So Hotel Transylvania is the little engine that could franchise, which still managed to stay in the top 10 despite a ton of competition. Transformania will likely continue that trend going, though sadly it will be the last film to compete. Though that's what they said about Shrek, and another one of those is on the way. Let's be honest, this is the end of the movie series, but I bet this massively successful franchise will move forward. I bet you that the animated TV spin-off show will be coming to Amazon Prime soon. Called it!